50 minutes, we'll attempt to, deeply discuss this issue. But I know with the kind of guests that we have in the studio, we are not likely to get it done because there will be so many perspectives to it. We told you this morning when we came in that we'll be looking at African democracy, the growth of African democracy, and what should be the role of Nigeria, given a whole lot of things that are happening around us. This Saturday, there's supposed to be an election in Anambra State. It's not looking like it's going to hold with the situation of things in the country. What examples, is Nigeria showing to the rest of Africa? That's exactly what we want to look at on the program this morning. I have on my immediate right a medical doctor who is also a public analyst, Dr. Kunik Ashimi. Dr. Ashimi, good morning.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. We also have with us Ustaz Jibril Lawa, one of our regulars, also joining us this morning. Ustaz, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, let me start with Dr. Ashimi. African democracy, if you also look, in recent times, we've seen issues in some countries in Africa. Sudan, there was coup in Sudan, and Nigeria actually said that that is condemnable, that military regime in today's world is anachronistic. Some people are also saying, why don't you mind your business? What you have back home is almost as bad as what you have in Sudan. And so the thinking is that Nigeria as a big country, as the giant of the continent, should really be leading the rest in terms of entrenching the principles of democracy. But over the years, how far do you think Nigeria has actually gone in this regard?
Okay, I'm going to approach this discussion first based on this premise that we have the assumption that I support democracy as the best form of governance, which I don't. But let us say that that is the benchmark. Two is that, you see, every country, particularly countries like Nigeria, that we have this appellation as the giant of Africa. And by virtue of our position, our population, our economic prowess, you say that 1 in 5 black person is a Nigerian. And that puts us in a position that dwarfs so many nations. And by virtue of our position, if you look at the map of Africa, if you interpose that over a gun, a pistol, Nigeria actually stands in a position of the trigger. So whatever happens or whatever Nigeria does or does not do actually have an influence over Africa itself. Imagine there is an armed robber and then you are holding a pistol and you refuse to press the trigger. Okay, you put yourself in a precarious position. So now a lot of people condemned the president's position when he said that Nigeria is going to support Sudan militarily and try to help stabilize its economy. And unfortunately, what I see these days is that a lot of us base our statements and positions on sentiments rather than on facts and reality. Every country have its own internal policy and foreign policy. And its foreign policy should be that which remotely and closely protects its interests. And in situations where you do not act, there will be a problem. Now, Nigeria's foreign policy is essentially Afrocentric, that Africa should be economically and politically stable. Because if that does not happen, what happened in 1992, 93, or at other times would happen again. Like some people will put a joke, but something's happened. Now, Sudan could be said to be far from Nigeria, but it is so close that if the conflict in Sudan is not well managed, you would have influx of Sudanese to Nigeria. And part of these people would have been those who were involved in the conflicts who had bore arm. And when they come to Nigeria and cannot find employment or succor, they will go or they will join the already set criminal groups that are in Nigeria. A country's foreign policy is not a respecter of the regime in power for as long as it is set.
Doctor,
if you remember, let me quickly say, in 1996, during the crisis in Liberia, even though we had a military junta, Abacha, sitting, there was a coup in Sierra Leone for the Sanko and all of those groups. Nigeria led ECOWAS to put a stop to that junta, even though we had a junta ruling. This is essentially foreign policy.
So, talking about the foreign policy, recently people have talked about what happened in Libya.
Yes.
That because of what happened in Libya, that is one of the things we are suffering here in Nigeria because of what they are going through, the level of arms proliferation in that country. They find their way around. Is that what exactly you're saying?
Exactly my point. If we look at, because the rest of the world kept at bay and allowed the Western democracies, the US of this world, the Britain and all that, whose primary interest is the energy sources, the raw materials, the resources of Libya. That was their own goal. It's not about stabilization of Libya. Their own goal was to take the resources to develop their own economy. But the backlash of that is that Nigeria is one of the countries now suffering because we also did not take an active, position or stand during that process. Don't forget, look, Nigeria was just how old as an independent country when the Congo process, the crisis in Congo started. Congo got independence 6 months before Nigeria in 1960. They had their independence in June, Nigeria in October. By 1963, there was, in fact, it wasn't even in any part of 1960 to 1961, there was a lot of problems, crisis in Congo. And Nigeria had to take an active part. Otherwise, the instability in Congo will have rubbed off on the foundation of Nigeria from the very beginning.
All right, Ustaz,
just a few months.
Ustaz, let's also look at the issue from this angle. We talk about growth of democracy. And of course, people will say that the players in the democracy are not also doing things that are supposed to be the principles of democracy. Is not what we enjoy, especially in Nigeria right now. They are not playing by the rules of democracy. And then we expect the growth to continue or to even start in the first place, just so we could be able to be the giant that we are, a role model for Africa to emulate. So with those things, those issues confronting Nigeria as a country right now, how do we become that?
Oh, thank you so much. And I really want to appreciate the fact that the guest I have in the house with me is equally highly deep in foreign policy of countries all over the world. And I'm happy that he is able to separate sentiment from realities, the fact on ground. I think I'm so happy about that. By his doing that, I think he has lightened my burden a bit. I don't need to go into so much of the details today. But it would be wrong for anybody to feel that because of whatever is happening in Nigeria, inverted commas, that our democracy is not growing, etc. We don't have any reason or any local standing or justification to be asking others that what are you doing there. I think he has done so much justice with that. You can't keep quiet, when your neighbor is fomenting trouble, because eventually it's going to bounce back on you. But being that as it may, with that background that he has given us, to me, it's really critical for the topic we're discussing. What should Nigeria do when it comes to, African countries, democracy in Africa? That's a good one. But let's look at the general background of democracy itself. Well, I might not agree with him when he says he does not see democracy as the best form of government. Maybe that's a topic for another day anyway. But democracy for now is, to the whole world, a system through which we can bring about civil liberty, a system through which we can bring about economic justice, a system through which can bring about political, social justice. It has worked in a lot of systems in the world. So if it's not working in certain part of the world or in certain segment of the world, it does not mean that democracy, is a problem. Maybe the way we are practicing it is the issue. And I think perhaps that is what Doctor is not really, too comfortable with. But democracy really gives room for everybody to participate, give an opinion for us to grow. Being that as a thing in Africa, a lot of research has come up, but there have been different parameters through which we have judged, we've been able to look at democracy in Africa. How far has it gone? Has it really worked for us? The United Nations has a different parameter, the US government has a different parameter, the NGOs have a different parameter. But all of them are agreeing to one thing, that when we want to score democracy anywhere in the world, we must be able to bring about freedom for the people in all parameters of human endeavor, whether political freedom, economic freedom, ability to say what they need to say, human rights, etc. And when we do that in Africa, they've been able to assess that a lot of countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and by sub-Saharan Africa I mean, what do you call it, from the Sahara Desert down, to this place. That's what it means. That quite a number of us, democracy, when you talk of democracy is not being practiced in quite a number of countries. And they mentioned, for instance, in Ethiopia we had the issue, quite a number, I can't even bring them up. But in Southern Africa, I'm coming to Nigeria, that's your question, I'm coming there. In Southern Africa, quite a number of Southern African countries have been adjusted to have good democracy. It has its reasons, I'll get to that. Nigeria has been adjudged to be, partially free because of the ding-dong that we are having, in Nigeria. So our democracy has been adjudged to be the best. But Ghana, our neighbor there, comes out clean. Benin comes out clean. One other country in Africa, in West Africa, too came out clean. Senegal too came out clean. But Cameroon is not coming out clean. We should not be surprised that Cameroon is not coming out clean. When they use the index of freedom, human rights, etc., Cameroon is not coming out clean. Now come to Nigeria. The fact that Nigeria has issue with its democracy, and let me tell you, what we call issue in democracy is not really an issue if we are going to be honest with you, because in any democracy there will be challenges. Look how it's happening in America, for instance, during Trump. When Trump came in, all of us knew that the election that brought in Trump was not clean. But that does not stop America from interfering in other, democracies in the world. Even when Biden came in as the president, some people are still contesting what is happening. All of us are seeing what is coming up in America today. But still at that, they're not saying they're going to be involved in other countries of the world. When America suddenly needed to come in and get Australia with the submarine issue, they damned France. Biden came and said, well, we're clumsy about it, but they done what they wanted to do, for God's sake. And that is how foreign policy is done. And they realize that they need Australia because of China. So these are the issues that we are talking about. So Nigeria cannot afford to keep quiet. And that's why since Shagari Day, since independence, our policy, foreign policy, has been, like he said, it has been Afrocentric. Africa is at the centerpiece of our foreign policy. Because whatever is happening in other African countries, invariably will come back to our backyard if we don't take any action. And that's why what is happening in Sudan now. And what happened in Guinea, you saw the way it has gone. Nigeria needed to bring, Jonathan, as an envoy to go and intervene in that. Nigeria knows that they need to put pressure on other African countries for coup not to happen there. Because if coup happens in those other countries in Africa and the world decides to look the other side, Nigeria is in trouble. So one thing that is holding back the khaki boys into the barracks is the way the world has been responding to coup where it has happened. It is not because of any...
So when we are talking about the context of Nigeria too, in respect to what we do here and what we are to other parts of the African continent, and we have a lot of issues we're dealing with at the moment. It's fine, democracy is not perfect in one day, and you mentioned the actors of democracy in the country also doing a whole lot that one might not be proud of when it comes to the principles of the way. It's not the same everywhere in the world. So if we have to look after the other countries that surround Nigeria, talking about the African continent and our own home, you see the different stages of conflict that we've evaded in this country last year. At different point, we're also struggling with that stand of being the Nigeria that we are, and of course doing the things that the people also want. So how do we create that balance where you look out for the people outside, and yes, your home is also trying to be in place, just so
If
we don't
I want
have
to be
a
honest with
spill.
you, yeah, I agree with you. If I want to be honest with you, and we want to be honest with Nigeria, we are about the largest democracy in Africa. We need to be honest about that. The kind of crisis Nigeria has been able to manage since the Civil War, I doubt if any other African country has been able to do that. So it gives credit to even our democracy that we are condemning. Because one way or the other, we will find a way to judge and resolve the issues. We saw what happened in June 12. The war thought June 12 become a war, but eventually it didn't. And I can assure you, even this I4, whatever is happening now, Nigeria will find a way around it using the principle of democracy. Discussions will come, settlements will come, negotiation will come, we will overcome it. And that's one thing that has worked for us in Nigeria. And that's why we're able to go to that part of the world and able to intervene in whatever they are doing. Look at the role Nigeria played in Liberia. Nigeria single-handedly ensured Liberia and brought them to where they are today. It was OBJ that installed this woman, Salif or whatever. His personal effort brought her in. What I'm trying to say in essence is, whatever, okay, take an example. Look at what happened to PTV Convention. Despite all the noise, etc., they will not give in to that. PDP eventually brought out Yochahayu, who is coming from the north. The body language of PDP is that the president that might come from there might come from the south-south or southwest or southeast. I don't know whether you are getting it.
Yes.
One way or the other, even the so-called actors that we want to condemn knows that once they allow the goose that lays the golden egg to die, they too will be affected.
Doctor,
so they always find a way out.
Maybe I should show the same question this way to Doctor. It is true, people would say that we've never been this divided before as a country. And it is a systemic thing that continues to happen at different stages. Not when President Buhari came to power, but because, like you said, we've been able to manage not addressing the issues that we have, but we were able to talk about it in a way that the root causes of all those problems are not being addressed or being tackled directly. So we judge at some point, then we come back to it, and it comes back again, bigger than what we expected. At this critical stage that we manage the differences, and 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we did not explode. And we hope that the future is not going to be the one that would bring everybody out and say, we can't take this anymore, because when you push the child to the wall, at some point it gets back and turn to become something else. So how do we look at it from that angle, Doctor?
Well, like I said, we need to always separate what is happening in the country within, and then how we relate to events outside. But you see, again, some of these things are so seriously related that if you are not looking closely, you are going to miss it. And I will enter into this discussion. Let me use this border closure, for example. The border closure of 2019 June that was lifted in December 2020 caused a lot of problems between Nigeria and the countries, especially to the left, Togo, Ghana, Benin Republic, and all that, that it was almost becoming a conflict. But what a lot of people did not understand is that Nigeria, being the country that it is supposed to be at the top of the ladder in African economics and policy. And Nigeria is part of that agreement to float African Continental Free Trade Agreement, And over the years, about twice or so, the implementation or the takeoff had been postponed. And a final date was set to be January 1st, 2021. And the Nigerian government now looking at it to say, okay, what this treaty means is that you'll be able to move goods within the African continent with almost zero tariff. To increase, because this is one of the problems of Africa. Intra-African trade is very, very low. Okay, and we need that to strengthen our continent before we can start saying that we want to face the world as one. But unfortunately, what was Nigeria bringing to the table at that time? Almost nothing. We were almost entirely, import dependent. And what the trade agreement says is that any goods produced in Benin Republic, for example, can enter Nigeria at almost zero tariff. Now imagine that some unscrupulous people now import something from France and remove the label and says made in Benin Republic. And they're able to move it in. We'll be killing ourselves. So government needed to do something to give us comparative advantage over other countries. Close the border. Let our people at least start producing some things that they can export, in exchange for the imports that will be coming from other countries. And so within those 19 months, a lot of things happened. A lot of companies were able to leverage. In fact, if you go to the major supermarkets these days, you will approach the shelf and you see something so nice, you grab it and you think it's foreign made. Check, you see proudly made in Nigeria. A lot of things happened in that space. And you also realize that at that time, the CBN and some other interventions came in to help these people. What the government did not do is to explain to you that this is what we're doing. But on the one hand, there was a near conflict with other countries. On the other hand, inside, people started shouting, open the border, don't do this, do that. As of today, the Rice Growers Association of Nigeria have said we are now able to produce, I think, about 11 million metric tons, and we are ready even to export. That is where we need to be. So while something was happening on the inside, people were groaning and all that, those who understand what was happening quickly leverage on that situation, start producing whatever they will produce. You see people now packaging gari, beans that you don't need to pick anymore, even ogbono, and all of those things are now available for export. But on the outside, there was conflict, so much so that some Ghanaians started, attacking, Nigerian businessmen up to our consulate.
Even in South Africa.
In South Africa. So you see all those things as they were playing out. But the central thing is that Nigeria cannot miss out when we open our borders or when we enter into. So the moment it was due to take off on January 1, 2021, the border closure was lifted on December 30. So that is how government works. There are a lot of complexities around there, and people would rather pick one and not look at the whole issue. Now, I am not saying that, government is doing fantastic. I am saying let's look at issues based on the issues and not sentiment and politics. A lot of us are groaning, things are not okay, things are bad and all of that. We hope for better. Is it that this government that would change in its policies to make this better, or is it when they leave that things will be better? But I mark my word on something. There is always a transition. There are some things that this government is doing that would not show until they have left. Okay? There are things that the government before them did that did not really show until they left, because some of these things don't take 1 year to happen. So when you look holistically at a nation like Nigeria, yes, we're going through turbulence times and all of that, but it does not mean that we will close our eyes to what is happening on the outside. Because if we do, remember that there was a time at the beginning of the Eritrea-Ethiopia conflict. Now Tigray is also on. If you look at Nigeria, especially Lagos or the major capital cities of Nigeria, you will see an influx of a lot of Ethiopians. I know the women especially, and their little children running around the place. Okay? Back then. You remember that when the conflict in Liberia happened, where did these people move to? Nigeria. And so, if you allow that conflict to continue, they will have completely overrun Nigeria, so you better go and attack the problem that is, happening in their country. What happened? Ghana. How did the word Ghana must come? It was because they were here. And at a point, they had to go. Because whatever the problems in their countries had been sorted out. Don't forget, a lot of people will make bold to say, in those days, we were taught by Ghanaian teachers. They were good. They were this. I will explain what happened to you. There was a problem in their country. And they moved here. And the Nigerian system picked out the best of their best to be utilized in our system. especially in education. Don't forget, while a lot of you were saying that, oh, the Ghanaian teachers, I also remember the Ghanaian shoemakers, the Ghanaian cobblers, the Ghanaian, what do you call them, washermen, and all of that.
The dregs.
Okay? Yes,
the
so
dregs.
they were all here. But the ones that people want to promote are the ones that we found in our schools. But there were also some, if you come to Lagos Island, there were some who were criminals.
That's true. Just like we have Nigerians globally now. So we have some of our fantastic doctors anywhere, and we have people that are also
if you close your eyes to what is happening because you have some internal conflict, yes, you are only going to worsen your own situation.
Well, I think this is 8:36. We could just close the program at this point in time because of the conviction the two gentlemen are actually brought. You have almost converted me.
No.
So the point is the point I'm trying to make is that I think the way you've responded to this issue has clearly shown that I mean there are a whole lot of things that we have actually over-exaggerated in the country. But again, now what is that thing that we have that has been missing? Now look at the issue of insecurity, the issue of ethnicity taken too far.
Yeah.
I mean, these are not the kind of signs that other African countries really want to, learn from, from the giants who starts.
I was about, coming in to say, but that is not to say the comparison you are making does not have basis. Yeah, then you came in to moderate, and that is your work here. You see, we are having an issue in our democracy. There's no doubt about that. But what we're doing this morning is that we're not celebrating those issues.
Yes.
Because looking at the topic you've given us, we cannot afford to celebrate those problems. And even those problems now that we're looking at, when you look at other African countries, you realize that they are not even an issue. Like I told you, there have not been any country in Africa that has been able to manage the complexity that we are managing in Nigeria using this our democracy. Okay, look at, for instance, now some countries in Africa, Somalia, for instance, is just one ethnic group, one religion. Yet there is no peace there. Everybody are getting. But Nigeria has been able to evolve a system that gives room for people to ventilate. In a state we can ventilate. Relating with our representatives. In Oyo State, they can ventilate, relating with their representatives, saying things they don't like, bashing the governor when needed to be bashed, bashing the speaker when needed to be bashed. Somebody is allowing...
Let me quickly come in. I think the point Sima was trying to make relates to this. Probably, she said, does this not suggest that we are just postponing the evil days? Some people will say, okay, the PTV convention we had, and some Nigerians are already saying, oh, we'll go for PDP in 2023. And someone else said, what is the difference between PDP and APC? That, the political class is just moving from here to there, and then that if even PDP wins national power in 2023, you see a whole lot of APC members moving droves to PDP. Is it not postponement of evil days?
Can I ask one question? Do you know why Nigeria has not gone to war? Because an average Nigerian doesn't want war.
We like enjoyment.
No, that's not the issue. They looked back into what happened in the Civil War and realized the future is not in war. And however we push it and manage it, we should find solution to whatever is our challenges. And that is the issue. That is why, even up till now, even in the East, despite what IPOB is doing, an average Igbo man knows that when there is war in Nigeria, is going to be at the civil end.
With what you said now, that an average Nigerian doesn't want to go to war, that is you saying that. You understand the trajectory of this country, right from when it started. There are a lot of people that do not even understand, before now we're having a conversation with one of them. They don't know what the war is about. They don't understand that there are people strategically pushing them to war. And they are in the majority. And then, if we have to say that they have to create a balance, the other countries in Africa are not willing to take Nigerians. They would not be willing because of our population. Even the West cannot afford Nigeria to go into. So what is it that we need to do to also manage our own, just so we don't become victims for others to manage at some point.
Like I say, the politicians are realizing that there is need for us to have a transformation. They are realizing that the group of people that you've spoken about, we call them the youth. They are realizing that they need to be brought into what is going on. And a lot of reformation is going on. You'll see what will happen in 2023 within the political parties. There are a lot of transformation will come because they realize that people are genuinely asking questions. For instance, I listened to Akim Baba Ahmed this morning when they were having this at the sideline meeting in the newspaper. I was reported and they will support the best candidate. It is no longer, we have the population. I don't know whether you are getting it.
Yes.
The conversation is the narrative. The narrative is changing because they realize that however they want to go about it, they are playing politics. When Obeni, what's his name? The Ondo man, what do you call him? Arakuni came up and said must. He had reason when he used why he used the word must. They are opening politics. And one way or the other, the political class will sit down and bring about a reformation that will eventually douse the tension we have now. Because as soon as somebody from the south comes in as president, the pressure goes to the north. And the pressure here is doused one way or the other. I agree with you. Postponing the evil day. One way or the other, some of the things that we are contending are now being systematically, stylishly, being taken care of in our laws. For instance now, a number of the states are now having state police in inverted commas, one way or the other. One way or the other, the issue of that is in court for Supreme Court to look into. So one way or the other, even if you cannot come out to say, okay, we are having a conference that will attack and approach a number of these issues, we are having it being done constitutionally. And one thing that I want us to understand is that, for instance now, what is happening in some African countries has not happened in Nigeria. I will explain. We have what we call constitutional coup in other African countries. Or they are constitutional coup. They will not just come and say, okay, change the constitution. And that's the Adam and Togo did it. A number of them, went about doing it. But when Obasanjo wanted to do it, and Osia, that's the senator that died now, flied the kite. It didn't go through. Yes. And you'll be shocked that people that are even closer to him said, no, we won't take this. It has not happened. So one way or the other, our democracy is still better, compared to what is happening in other African countries, such that whatever you think is coming up there, and how can this happen? It can seldom happen in Nigeria because of the robustness of our democracy. And to me, that is just it.
Doctor, so why has it been this way that majority of Nigerians have not really been deeply thinking about this and they're thinking out the positives that we have in our democracy?
Okay, I will tell you that poverty plays a very tough role in the psyche of the average Nigerian. And oftentimes I say this is designer poverty because we have everything it takes not to be poor as a nation. But then you now have a few. I was telling somebody yesterday that in some other countries, what you find is that the politicians steal 20% of the national wealth and leave 80% for the people. In Nigeria, the politicians actually steal 80% of the national wealth and leave 20% for the people. And so the people are left grappling for survival. And when you are in such a state, you are hardly ever able to think straight. And part of that survival is, today I have been out on the street, I have not made a penny. And somebody comes to me and say, look, there's an election coming on Saturday. Can you go and snatch the ballot box for me? And gives you 50,000, 20,000. You're already told. Okay? You are already told. Or those who say, okay, there's an election, take this 100 naira, take this 200 naira. The average Nigerian is in survival mode. And as such, is not in a position to sit down and critically think. Unlike a lot of countries of the world, where you are not bothered about will there be petrol, to power your generator. As you're waking up in the morning, you remember that, oh, there is this nonsense sound I heard from the generator yesterday. So your to-do list would include call the repairman, make sure you remember to put the keg in the boot, or make sure you remember you are able to buy petrol when you are coming home. Then you remember that, oh, the road to the school of your children is laden with so many potholes and so many things that, oh, you remember that you started hearing one sound from the tires yesterday, so call Agbede, you know. And before you realize it, the core thing that you need to do as a person to say a productive human being, before you get to that on your list, is number 10 or number 12. Okay? So there are a lot of issues boggling the mind of the average Nigerian that it's difficult for him to sit down and critically think.
Now, should I? No, we started on the premise of foreign policy.
Yes.
Now, should our foreign policy now, you know, should be considered stronger than our conduct internally, democratically? Because a whole lot of countries are not really seeing the examples of, you know, what we should actually portray as giant of democracy in Africa. Some Nigerians are living in Kenya. Some Nigerians are living in Rwanda. Rwanda, they have made their own telephone. You know, so the body language that Nigeria is even showing internally is not also heartwarming for other African countries.
No, when you say African countries, you need to delineate the people or the leaders. Okay, the average leader in Africa knows that you cannot joke
with Nigeria.
But what makes the continent? Is it not the people or the leaders?
I agree with you. But you see, the people have their own level. Leadership has a level. Though, when we look at it, what would make any country fear the other? You see, you talk of hegemony. That Nigeria is an hegemon in Africa. Being able to influence the opinion, the events in other countries, two basic things will determine that. Your economic power, which was highly expressed the moment Nigeria closed its border. A lot of countries on the West African coast got into big problem. That tells you one thing, the power of the Nigerian market.
So how then?
Then two, your military power. That ECOMOG, as Ustaz mentioned then, when the problem in Liberia started, the whole world stood aloof. And Nigeria had to quickly take a leadership position in tackling the problem. And today, I dare say, that the way ECOMOG played in Liberia, also trying to, the moment the problem started in Sierra Leone, they were able also to make sure that the problem in Sierra Leone did not spill back into Liberia, but has become a model for peacekeeping in the whole world. But you know the problem with the military now?
Yes.
They are fighting internally on many fronts, and that alone has whittled their power.
And are they winning internally? If they are fighting so many on so many fronts internally.
Let me fire this out. You see, I understand the point you're trying to make, and I was expecting that from you, and it was ready for you. Nigerian police is bad at home.
Yeah.
But go to any international operation that they have attended, they've come out winning best. I don't know how you notice that.
Yeah.
NFF will have problem at home, but that does not mean any country in Africa will look down Nigerian team. I don't know how you're getting it.
Okay.
So that Nigerian spirit is still there. However, resolving the problem we have at home would take the involvement of those that created it. And who are those that created it? The political class. And that's just it. It is not the voters, no, the political class. This morning, something came up, and I said, wow, the PTV governor said they want to do away with the general. You can see that.
Yeah.
So they are now realizing that, okay, we don't need them again. We have gone past when we need these people. So the political class will need to sit down, re-strategize on how Nigeria will not disintegrate, because their benefit is Nigeria being whole. They realize it. So the political class, we cannot do away with them. A new thinking will bring about a tinkering with our political system that will, give room for us to have a different approach to all the problems that we have now. At a point, I felt this bad about the system. But I sat down to look at how we've been able to overcome
and you're comparing our bad.
Yes, apart from that.
No.
No one will be. I looked at 2019. We thought this and this, but one way or the other. The people that find a way to manage and etc. Even the banditry system you are seeing in the north, you realize that the middle class will find a way to solve, because the creation of the banditry in the first instance was by them. Was political. So
how that, just to add to what he said earlier, how we are not going to lose, that stand that we have right now in Africa, according to what
we can't lose it.
Is what is the concern of a lot of people. Like you said, like he also alluded to, we're fighting different wars at different places in this country, and then we could see how they are destroying most of these institutions. We see how they are ridiculing most of officers, in uniform, and then we want the entire African continent, to still respect us. That means we need to do something more. Like you said, the political class should get. They are the originator of the problems or these crises that we're battling with. So it means that there is a politicization of fighting most of this crisis that we're battling with in the country. So how else can we look at this? How else can we...
The world knows that a lot of issues we have in Nigeria is political. Let me give you one instance. France recently sent in their navy into Nigeria to partner with Nigeria, and they had a training. One other African country sent in their military, the chief of army staff came into Nigeria to partner Nigerian army. You understand?
Nigerian army can train them.
So they realize that.
I get, so that we don't lose us. That's what I'm saying. Because there are consequences for whatever we do. If we are doing it the way you said we are doing it, we should expect a consequence. And maybe that we don't learn through the hard way, where we have to lose everything before we get it back. So I want you to tell us a bit about what we can do differently.
One question I have kept asking myself is, what can we do differently? Or what can we do to solve the problem? Is it go to war? The answer is total no. It can't be war. All of us agree that, look, the next decision to complain is not going to war. We have agreed on that. So what can we do differently is the question I've been asking. And what we can do differently is imagining. Imagine now from a lot of conversations that are going on, one way or the other. The people that control the jugular of Nigerian politics are realizing that the demand by some people are actually true, legitimate, that needed to be attended to, and they need to look for a way to solve it. Even if they will not give out, maybe more than 30% of the agitations now. But the fact that some of these things will be allowed to go will bring in, okay, look at this issue of, revenue sharing formula that's going on. Kind of, flew a kite about 2 weeks ago. They are demanding for a certain percentage. They were not saying no again. I don't know if you are getting it. Yes. They looked at the states. They are not asking questions because they realize that those that are making those demands are making the same demand, and they might eventually succeed. So what I'm saying, narratives are changing, and a lot of things are balancing out. Even the youth issue we have now, you realize that some policy will come up that will eventually douse the attention of some of the youth that we're talking about, and they'll be involved into what you're going to imagine in 2023.
All right.
That's what I've noticed.
Doctor, someone said when Trump, won that election in America, the Democrat didn't do something spectacular. They just went to work. Which of course they convinced non-voters, over the years, and that was what came out with the result of Biden winning that election. What is it that the people need to do differently, apart from the political class that we have, supported what they've done so far to bring us here? What is it that the people actually need to do too to change the narrative?
I am happy that you're asking me what the people can do, because we have one single political class, political elite, political ideology. It's the same across the parties or PDP or whatever. And that is why some people have been able to jump back from, some of them 3 or 4 times between those two parties, and they don't feel the shame. But you see, the people themselves need to do something. And by the people, I think that I will address journalists the opinion leaders, those of us who sit on this side to address the people, you may have your personal opinion. You know, like when we were starting, I say, I put what I brought to the table, that based on what we're discussing, I will not demean democracy because I don't believe that that is the best, but I'll put it forward. So when we are engaging the public, let us bring up facts. Don't let us bring sentiments, because some people depend on us for the opinion that they have and the actions they carry forward. Let our journalists, particularly I'm addressing, that you address issues to their core and not just what you feel. They are two different things. If the two are the same, yeah, good for you. But if they are not,
opinionation.
Yes.
Opinionation.
People, one, I'm sorry to use the word, are lazy. That best that most people do is read headlines. And oftentimes, headlines are so misleading. And that in itself is a bigger problem. So when you join a conversation and you see how people are going into these discussions with all the vigor, and you try to probe into the depth, you now realize that the best they have is the headline. You know, and that happens. So the people themselves need to understand their leaders, where they are coming from, where they are going, their antecedents. Okay? And the people themselves should, by the way they are mentored by people like us, the journalists, to understand the difference between realities and, you know, fallacies and all of those. What are the things that are possible? For example, let me give you this small one. People have talked about this railway from Nigeria to Maradi. And you see the opinionation, and I say, for God's sake, why? Now, the trade volume between Nigeria and Niger is not fantastic. But what happens is that Niger is a landlocked country and requires access to the sea. Okay? What country is, you know, chopping, if I use the Nigerian balance, all the money that all these landlocked countries are? It is Benin Republic, that small Benin Republic. They import everything through Benin Republic and transport by road to Burkina Faso, to Mali, to Niger, to Chad, and all of that. But Nigeria has a bigger coastline, and we can make it even cheaper for those countries. So we make sure that our rail line gets to Apapa, the ships are able to dock, we clear all the bottlenecks around the ports, the ship lands, the goods are loaded on the tray, and straight to Niger. They pay for importation and export, you know, whatever, and Nigeria can make money from that. We should stop making sentiments out of all of these things.
I would have actually said that Femi Adesina, if he was actually watching this program, would have actually called Dr. Hashimi and the stars to breakfast.
Because you see, a lot of those things, when they themselves have issues,
Exactly.
they are never able to explain
Exactly.
to the people why these things are.
Exactly.
They are reactionary.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yes.
They are ever reactionary. I have a government that is not able to explain to people, carry people along on everything that they are trying to do. What is the strategic position of Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, for example? Why must government make sure that everything is put into Lagos-Ibadan Express Road instead of maybe Ibadan-Ife? You know, the people must know, and they are not doing their jobs.
One thing that sustained IBB was that he had a good propaganda machine.
Exactly.
I
remember. I was growing up then, and anytime you were angry with IBB, and immediately it came on TV. At the end of the day, everybody would just go. Anyway, what people will say, the way the day will look like, the money determines it. This Monday morning has been so fantastic. I think I've been converted. I just hope the entire week will be like this. I must thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Dr. Kunle Hashimi, thank you so much for your edifying contributions this morning. Ustaz, thank you too. You've converted me. Don't worry. We'll move on to the next segment of the program shortly. We'll be looking at a softer issue. Very serious too, but it's a bit softer than this. In the next few minutes. Stay with us.